was the Canon 70 Mark II and the Canon 70 Mark I that I have. The 500 millimeter lens, as you can see here. And I also have a Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter zoom lens. I was hoping not to use it that much, but just in case birds got very close, because we were in a height. We were in the height all the time. And just in case I wanted to do some landscapes and things like that, I also had a Sony, small Sony camera that I was using for local small stuff and things like that. Like it's an RX100 M5, very handy. I just rented it from a local shop here. And of course, I was carrying my iPhone. So I took everything that I had that can take pictures, essentially. All right. So just a very, very high-level view about the landscape we saw there. Beautiful countryside, lush green forests, mountains and hills and things like that. Just absolutely stunning. A typical setup for me would have been, okay, I'm going to be sitting inside this tent, this a nice one-person tent, essentially. We're photographing through that all the time, most of the places. And you will notice that the lighting here was not very, very good. But that was okay, because I knew there was just enough light and I could be shooting not flying birds, not birds in flight essentially, but things which are going to be perched. So I was not too worried about it. And in this particular setup, I did not carry a flash. That was one thing that I learned, and maybe if I go there next time, I might just plan it slightly differently. But as you can see, just beautiful, beautiful landscape. So I'm going to very quickly also show some videos in the meantime as we're walking through. I got a book from the guide, and as we were also trying to learn about birds, of whatever I saw, I was trying to make notes in the field, trying to make sure that I actually don't forget the name that he tells me. And it was not that easy, but quite worth it. What you see here is I hope you can see my cursor. This is the guide come photographer that I was with, his brother who was also a driver and a photographer, my wife and I. And this is a very typical kind of landscape we were going into for photographing. So you'll see thick wood, really nice canopy, but extremely dark at places. And the video actually ends, in a spot where we stop to look over, and then you'll see it was so dark that even during daytime, it was really difficult to shoot at good apertures and good shutter speed. It's something to keep in mind if you're going to do photography in forests. All right. Okay, so having said that, so we flew into Bangkok. Somebody came to pick us up from the airport and immediately took us down to Kang Krachang National Park. It was about a 3-hour or so drive, and it's a beautiful park, and I think one of the biggest ones in Thailand. Highly recommend this place. Actually, this is supposed to be a bird haven, nearly 500 species and actually more in this spot. There's a very, very beautiful nature lodge called the Ban Maka Lodge. If you just search on Google where to stay during Kang Krachang, this national park, and this nature lodge actually comes up. It's owned by a Thai lady who's married, I think, to a German bird watcher. And they, over the period, they've actually developed into a very beautiful lodge where you stay, very comfortable. Food was fantastic, and extremely hospitable people there. As you can see, they are building this up even as we speak. They do have very nice, lush gardens as well as marshland and so on. So you can do a lot of bird watching right there, common species. But if you wanted to really do some, really good ones, what they have encouraged is local guides. But if you have your own guide, then they can drive you to different spots. And you'll notice that lots of farmers open up their, land essentially. For bird watching, and they just get a little tip. But what they do is they maintain food, they maintain water and sources of water around the property, and then have a really nice place for you to watch birds. So that's what we did. We drove around 15-20 minutes and then went to different spots and started noticing really very interesting species. So hope you can see this video. And the first time I saw this, I was like, okay, it's a hen and a cock, and there's nothing very unusual. But of course, the farmer then came and told us this is actually a jungle fowl. It's quite exciting because I had heard about them, but I had no idea how similar they are to cocks in India when I was growing up. Poultry, essentially, same species, obviously, but these things are actually they are still jungle fowl that you still see them in Thailand. Apparently, I heard they are also visible in jungles of India and Myanmar. The male is on the left, and this is the female of the jungle fowl on the right hand side. Very, very similar to the chicken that we see. Interestingly, I don't know if you noticed in the same video, there was a very, very beautiful partridge. And thankfully, we got a lot of places, a lot of time to photograph these very beautiful birds. It's a bar-backed partridge. Again, this was essentially shooting in the evening, so low shutter speed, and really hoping that the birds don't move that much. There is some movement, and this is the best we could do, but still some exceptional sightings of partridges. So the ferruginous partridge is what the guide had been talking about for the longest time, and he kept telling me this is the prettiest thing that he has seen in this part of Kankrachan, and thankfully we actually waited for more than an hour in one particular spot, which he kept saying this is a 100% guaranteed you'll see this bird at the spot. So we waited there for more than an hour, and rightfully so. This absolutely stunning bird just comes by. And then he wanted to attract it after that. It came on its own for the first time. And the second time, what he did is he started placing food just to see if it comes back again. And then it did definitely come back for a couple of times after that. In fact, we saw two of these birds that came by, and really stunning color, ferruginous, red oxide type of, iron oxide type of coloring on these birds. Just absolutely stunning. So not just the partridges, we saw lots of different birds, a lot of songbirds. One that was very exciting to us, actually, for people who grew up in India, you've heard about bulbul. It's a very typical bird that we see, but this is not the species. I heard that there are different species of bulbul which do fly actually through Myanmar, through eastern India into Thailand. Those are either the striped, red-vented bulbul, or the crested bulbul. The striped throat bulbul, I had not heard about them being in India, in eastern India at least, but this is a very pretty bird that we saw in Kankrachan. This is eating fruit. Common emerald dove, we got really a lot of sighting for this bird. Very common, but still extremely pretty. And then, of course, we saw tons of thrush. I think Kankrachan is absolutely known for different bird species, especially their thrushes and pitas, of course. And so this was the lesser necklaced laughing thrush. And it always came in flocks with the greater, actually. So these two guys, they're always together, almost all the time. Extremely vocal and very playful. It's just absolutely beautiful sound too, by the way. This one actually is my favorite that I came across in Kankrachan. This is the white-crested laughing thrush. And I probably, the flock was close to about 12 or 14 birds, and they were so loud, incredibly loud, but beautiful, beautiful birds. So I had never heard about babblers in my life before I went to Thailand. I was skimming through different books, and I heard and saw this name. I wasn't really sure what to expect. But you'll see this one and the next few birds you're actually going to see. The white-browed scimitar babbler, quite a beautiful bird in itself, always have a hooked nose, hooked beak, very orangish yellow hooked beaks. This is the white-browed. This is the large scimitar babbler. This is a puff-throated babbler. Okay, and as you would have seen, I'm going to go back for just 1 second just to make a point here. As you can see, there's water around these where these birds come by. So these are not natural ponds. And this is just where, what I was just mentioning. Some farmers open up their backyards and create kind of ponds there for these birds to come and bathe and have a sip. And they do sometimes give them mealworms and so on. So I just wanted to be honest about, we were in a forest, yes, but these birds are actually in the backyard of a different farm, and they do come back. They don't catch them or anything like that. It's just that they are natural. No lighting, nothing extra special for birders, but just that these birds do come there to flock, and they know they have a good source of water around. And this one, I don't know how many of you have actually heard about the white drum shama. You probably would have heard of this bird, actually heard it singing, and then the voice was so familiar to me, but I could never place it until I actually saw it. I have a video in the next few seconds, next few minutes actually, and I hope you all can hear this just absolutely stunning, beautiful small bird, and makes very, very nice song. And I think it's a he because of the long tail for display, but he was around the tent quite a bit. Again, very vocal. Hornbills, of course, Kankachan is known for its oriental pied hornbill, and we were just absolutely lucky. This was my only sighting of this bird for a couple of seconds, and that's about it actually. And then he flew away. Never saw him back again. And in the nature lodge itself at night, we got a very special view of this little spider hunter. This was on a frond, like a palm frond, and he was just resting for the night. And this photo actually is from my iPhone because I just didn't have enough time to go to my room to get my camera and things like that. But and of course, I came back with my camera, and this bird was gone. So this was just some fun. This is at the place where they come to feed and drink and play around a little bit. I played with a little bit of slow shutter speed here, just deliberately to see some action, just to see some kind of a slow shutter speed action for birds. They turned out to be fun. But the birds were really having a good time. They knew the source of water. We were in December, so it's actually a dry season for Thailand. Not too hot, not too cold. The temperature was, somewhere in the 60s and 70s. At places where we went, the temperatures were usually between 80s and 90s. And of course, these are the places where the birds would, definitely need to have a water source. But absolutely, just joyous. I was having a good time sitting inside this tent and, watching birds for hours together. Highly recommend Kank Rachan, in fact. So the birds that I really wanted to see, the Pita, broadbill, and the Siamese fireback. Actually, Siamese fireback is the national bird of Thailand, and unfortunately, the only thing I got is this. I got a nap. We spent close to 8 hours at one spot where these birds are supposed to be quite commonly seen. Not the Pita, but I never got to see them. And this is one of the regrets that I had about the Thailand trip, especially Kang Krachan, is I never got to see a pitta, which was, something that obviously every one of us has heard about these birds, how colorful they are, and how just stunningly beautiful these things are. So I actually have to make another trip back to Thailand just for these birds. I got a nap though, so that was not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to play a video. It's about a couple of minutes long. Hopefully all of you guys can see it and hear it too. I'll speak to these birds towards the end, where we saw tons of flycatchers. This was the other bird that was a highlight of the trip. Actually, was the peacock pheasant. This is the male, and we saw the female right after that. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second here and then unmute you all because I think looks like there was some issue with the video volume. Let's see if I can manage this. So I'm going to unmute you all for a second here, but so you guys couldn't hear the video, did you?
No.
I did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cannot hear.
I can hear very clearly.
I can hear also.
I can hear now.
I couldn't hear the video.
It was low. The video was low.
I could not hear the video.
Okay. All right. We'll have to figure that out. But I'm sorry about that. Okay. We'll see if I can do this some other time, some other way actually. But for now, unfortunately, there's no way to fix it because I don't have an external speaker for the videos itself. So please bear with me.
National Park. I don't remember.
Yeah, we went
We did?
Okay. So I'm going to mute you all. Okay.
Okay.
there. Yes.
Okay, so continuing on, so I just wanted to know from Kang Krichan, actually had a good trip, and then wanted to really wait for the surprise that the guide was talking about all this while, and he says that on the way to Mae Wong, there is actually one place he would like to stop because there's a good chance you're going to see something very unique and very uncommon. So that got me very excited. Of course, you didn't tell us what we're going to go look at. So this was the spoon-billed sandpiper. I had never heard of this, to be honest, before that. And as he was starting to talk about in a couple of hour drive to this spot, we're going through rice fields and things like that. And he kept on talking about the spoon-billed sandpiper. So I immediately looked at the book and was thinking, holy cow, this is a critically endangered species. And actually quite a rare sighting, and so we would be really lucky if you can get to see this. So just for people to realize how truly interesting and a very unlikely bird this is, the migration here shows that the bird actually breeds in Russia and then migrates down south from Japan, China, Japan, Korea, and then to Thailand. And all along the way, it's lost its hotspots for wintering, and because of either too many too many buildings have come up. It's lost its marshes and things like that because of development there. So unfortunately, very few birds actually survive. And there are apparently only about 300 or 400 individuals of this species that's it, globally. And you can see this is about an 8,000 kilometer migration we're talking about here. And along the way, they've lost their resting places. So I thought the chances of seeing this is going to be incredibly low. But I just wanted to, still wanted to go there. It was off our track, it was fine, but we just went. We definitely wanted to make a trip. So this place, as soon as we get here, we saw lots of shorebirds, and then the guide started shouting that he could see it. I could not identify amongst all of these birds what he was talking about. And then we put up a scope. We spent a good couple of hours to see this bird. And for clarity, I'm just highlighting this. As you can notice, it's one of many of similar looking sandpipers essentially, except for the bill. And this was really, really, really far away. And this is the best shots I could get from my 500 millimeter lens. But very happy, as also happened to be January 1st. So it was a very nice way to start a new year. The spoon-billed sandpiper. And the week before me, the same guide actually had a different group. And apparently the bird came about 50 feet close to him, and that's what you see here. Incredibly beautiful bird. He got some really nice shots. That's his name, by the way, Tony Eagle Eye. That's how he goes by. So that was a very interesting, very interesting side trip for us. And I was very excited because this is the first time I'm seeing anything which is called critically endangered. Very, very small bird, but actually quite exciting for us to see. And then, of course, from there, it was another, I think, a good 7 or 8 hour drive to Mae Wong National Park. And Mae Wong National Park is actually in the Midwest of the country, quite hilly, but actually really beautiful. About 2,000 meters is a mountain, which is the highest mountain there. And then we did some birding in and around that place. Apparently very well known for quite a few rare birds, especially like one of the birds that I was really excited to see is the gray peacock pheasant, as well as the hornbills. So unfortunately, I do have a video about 3 minutes long. I'm going to try it again, but this one probably should not have too much of audio anyway, but this is just for the birds itself. Okay, hopefully you were able to hear this one better. I got just a few comments on the chat that the volume was okay. So this place again, I think we were really lucky to see the peacock pheasant much close and very personal. This guy just hung out for more than an hour, absolutely not even caring that we were around. And just absolutely beautiful bird. It is a part of the peacock family and also truly colorful. This is the male, and we got to see the female as well. And the colors that you see on both of them is just the iridescence of these. So depending on the light, the colors would change from bluish to teal to green and so on. Like you can see here, it's both a combination of teal as well as blue on this bird, just depending on how the light hits it. Stunning bird, absolutely stunning. Along with that, we also saw some sunbird. I was hoping you could see the Mrs. Gold sunbird, which is a very famous and very popular sunbird in this part of the country, at least. But we didn't see that. We saw just the black-throated. And like in the other plot, we saw other songbirds, including lots of flycatchers. And if time permits towards the end, I'm going to show you a completely overwhelming set of flycatchers. I had actually shown a few of these birds last year during the Bring Your Own Photo show. But if you have time, I'm going to repeat them at the end. The blue whistling thrush, extremely common in this part of the world, and actually quite a beautiful songbird. Chestnut-crowned laughing thrush. Unfortunately, didn't get any good shots of this bird except for this one. Bad lighting, but this is the best I could do. And then, of course, I never see this bird again. This is a white-necked laughing thrush. So as you can see, we saw lots of thrushes. And this one was my favorite, a small, tiny bird, the yellow-cheeked tit. Extremely curious bird, and very, very vocal too. So like in the other place, we saw bulbuls. This time, this one is actually called a flavescent bulbul. It's same species, obviously, but a different bird. Same genus, but a different species, sorry. The flavescent bulbul. White-tailed robin. And this was the most interesting bird I saw there afterwards, was the hair-crested drongo. So I'd seen the drongos before, but never a hair-crested one. And apparently this bird does come into to Mae Wong, and this is actually quite a popular place to see this. And this is a black drongo. So we started driving away from Mae Wong. We stayed there one day and one night, and then as we are passing through different fields, I also notice other birds there that I'm trying to. Hopefully, I can give you a good flavor of what we see. This is the this is the Asian openbill, a very interesting bird. Unfortunately, I got a couple of shots with this, but I was really hoping it's going to catch a mussel or something. And the way they open these mollusks is actually quite interesting, but we never saw it catch any food. A Chinese pond heron, quite common in this part of the world actually, and quite common bird that we saw every place. So from Mae Wong, the last and the final destination for us was towards Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai actually is a very popular destination for people who go on vacation to Thailand. Because it has got beautiful temples, a lot of places where food is apparently a very big thing there, and of course we skipped all of that and went directly to national parks, and I'm really glad I did, because it's actually also closer to the Burma border, and you do see a lot of migratory birds that come in from East India and through Myanmar, into Thailand in this spot. So some of the species I'd actually heard of before, but I've never seen them. Of course, I've never photographed them. But it was very exciting to see these little, actually lots of flycatchers essentially. Absolutely beautiful place. So in Doi Inthanon, the guide actually gave us an option to say we're going to spend a few days in Doi Inthanon itself, and then maybe one day drive up closer to the Chiang Rai, which is also actually much more closer to Myanmar border. And I took him up on that and said, okay, I don't mind going there. Maybe we lose some local birds in Doi Inthanon, but at least I can see another national park. And I'm glad I did actually. So as we speak, I'm going to show you some birds from this place, which is very interesting one that we saw as soon as we went to this park. It's a spot-breasted parrotbill. I can't say I had a target list of birds that I wanted to see because I wanted to see everything I could. But this bird actually had caught my attention even in the guidebooks, and I was hoping we could see them, and we did. Bad lighting, but at least I could see the bird. Very interesting bird, very tiny bird, actually eats grass seeds essentially, and it was quite far away, but we got a good glimpse of this bird for a few minutes. And on the way to these parks, we also stopped by some lakes. We saw the little ringed plover, quite a few birds in fact, we saw a dozen of them at least. The small pratin cole. This is also the first time I'd actually heard about this bird, but again, very tiny, smallish bird like a plover, but quite interesting. The white wagtail. It's actually quite common in Asia to see this bird, and this was very, again, like in the other the pratin cole and the plovers, we saw them near the lakes. This is the white vented myna. The common myna is the one which is more commonly seen. There is a vented myna that you can see in some parts of the world. And this one also actually is a very vocal bird that is quite common in Thailand. Ashy wood swallows. We waited quite a bit for these birds to fly or go to a tree, but I couldn't just couldn't get a shot of this anything except on electric wires. A small grayish bird with a slightly blue beak. It's actually quite interesting to see. And once we went into the forested areas, into a little bit of the rainforest essentially, and again the lighting was not terribly good. We were waiting to see if we can get the pheasants back or any other ground-dwelling birds come up to show to see there. But all we saw was the pipit. This guy was near the tent for the longest time. Absolutely didn't care that they had a few tents around. We hung out for quite a bit. So the pied bush chat. And little bee eaters. I mean, this is very common bird in that part of the world. You probably have heard about these birds. They catch flies and insects, and they actually come back to the same branch to crash the insect, get rid of the feathers or the fangs before they swallow them. The gray-backed shrike, the cousin of the shrikes that we see here. A rock thrush. Interestingly, I've seen the male and the female rock thrush in Japan, and in Thailand, I only just saw the female. It's a very interesting. The male actually is a very colorful, very dark blue colored bird with a brown chest. It's a beautiful bird actually. And then one of my favorites that I had heard about and I really wanted to see, the Siberian ruby throat. I actually have a book called 100 Birds You Should See Before You Die. And I was flipping through that book several times. And one of the birds that caught my attention is a Siberian ruby throat. and lo and behold, actually, we did see it in Toyantanon. Again, very shy bird. So this one, it did come out. It actually peeked out when we were just standing at one place. And fortunately the guide asked me if it's okay if he put some worms and starts calling the bird. And I was a little hesitant for a few minutes. But having seen the bird and not having gotten a picture, I said it's okay to put some worms and see if the bird comes back out. And that's what he did. We waited for a few minutes, and of course, then I got some really stunning views of this absolutely beautiful bird. Like the name suggests, it winters in Thailand, but actually breeds in Siberia. It's a long journey for this bird. And one of interesting tale, we were waiting for other flycatchers and things like that in this spot, and a group of other photographers came by. A couple of them were from India and were vacationing in Thailand. And I was jumping up and down when I saw an ultramarine flycatcher because I'd never seen this bird before. Extremely colorful, beautiful bird, really small, beautiful bird. And then the guy sitting next to me says, "My God, I'm so bored of seeing this. I've seen this so many times in India." I was thinking, okay, this is such an interesting story. I'd never seen this, and this person actually apparently had seen it so many times. He was bored of this bird. I just can't get over the fact that anybody can be bored of seeing this just gorgeous little bird. He was very curious. This guy and this gray bush chat were going after the same source. Essentially, they were actually fighting for a spot on a palm branch. They were very close to each other actually, but they were at it for the longest time. But absolutely stunning, beautiful birds. And then we saw lots of babblers. The scimitar babbler. We saw bulbul. Again, this is a sooty-headed bulbul. So for people who are aware of Thai culture, there is a song, bird singing competition. Bulbuls are very commonly used for that competition, but apparently it's the cousin of the sooty-headed bulbuls, not this one per se. But bulbuls are known very well actually for the singing abilities. Okay. So we are about 45 minutes into the presentation. If people would like to, then I'm actually going to unmute you guys for a second again, and I'll just take a quick poll. All right. Do you guys mind if I do the flycatchers?
Be nice.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, during this trip, we actually saw a good variety of flycatchers, in fact, and I was very pleased. So I'm going to show you rather quickly, actually. But okay, so this is the red-breasted or the red-throated flycatcher. I could not get a description. I think this one looks like a female. The guide wasn't particularly sure about this, but it definitely looked up some other websites, and it says it's a red-throated flycatcher, the female of the species. The hill blue, interesting birds, and I think the combination was what caught my attention. Almost, actually, several of these birds actually have blue and yellow, and I learned a little bit about the coloration itself. But one very interesting fact about the blue color is for pigments. Actually, if a bird has reds and oranges and yellow in them, those are usually because of carotenoids and the food they eat. The colors of blue and greenish blue and the teal is mostly structural. It's how the bird feathers are aligned and reflect light. It's actually pretty interesting to see why a lot of these flycatchers have blue and yellow in them. So this is the black-naped monarch. Very interesting. This is the male of the species. I got some really nice views of its side and from above. Very interesting. It has actually a very nice black nape, and that's why the name. And this is the female of the same bird. The tickle blue, quite common in all over Thailand. It's also called the Indo-Chinese flycatcher. This is a female. And this is the Veriditor flycatcher female. I could not see the male, but I heard the male is actually also stunningly beautiful. And the ultramarine. The white gorgeted. And this was, unfortunately, this is the only sighting I got of this bird for a couple of seconds, and that's about it. And this one also, this is the white gorgeted. The rufous gorgeted also, just for like a fraction of a second, that's what we saw, and that's about it. The slaty blue.
Doris, so sorry. We all are. He's a good man.
Don't. You don't belong with him. And then fly an empty casket 7,500 miles so you can look what? Presidential? That's why we're here. Don't tell me how sorry.
Siberian ruby throat. As I mentioned, actually, we had to attract him out with mealworms. I feel guilty actually having done that, but then, you know, the bird was getting fed, so I didn't mind it for this particular one. Right, so that's, so this is very typical place where we were shooting birds. This is actually just before I was shooting the Siberian ruby throat. And as you can see, you know, it really comes out in a very dark spot, so I couldn't help it. But this is very typical you know, kind of weather as well as space in which we were shooting in Thailand. So that's what I had for a presentation.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move on. One more thing.
Bye.
Sorry, that's what I had for a presentation, and I hope, you know, at least from what I learned was that it's like not everybody is muted. Sorry. Okay, so that's what I had for a presentation for today. And then what I learned in this trip is, you know, especially shooting birds in forests and things like that. Absolutely, I think the tripod was very helpful. Low shutter speeds is something you'll have to get used to, or a high ISO. There's nothing you can do about that. And then, like you saw, some of the shots, I don't know if I will print them or keep them, but this is as an example. I wanted to show what I got. But I definitely wanted to see some more crisper shots, but that's okay. It didn't matter because I was also learning about birds in a new spot. So yeah, absolutely stunning.
Okay,
So
well, thank you, Sridhara. Now, if anyone has any questions, you can type it into the little chat box. Click on chat, and then just fill in the question.
So I did get one already. So Loni is asking if the flycatcher indicated as the tickle blue is also the Indo-Chinese, and yes, they are. Yeah, they are the same bird. They actually called the tickle blue or the Indo-Chinese flycatchers. And then Bruce asking, would fill flash help in these dark forest areas? I think, Bruce, yeah, of course, I would have loved to take a fill flash with me. I just didn't think about it that well. I didn't think it through very well. But if I go back to Thailand, then yes, this time I'll take a fill flash with me for sure. Were the videos done with the 7D? Yes. So some of the videos that I showed were from 7D on a tripod, and especially for the birds in water and things like that. There are some, I think I was using the Sony camera for a little bit of a photo shoot just to show the jungle and things like that, but otherwise most of the videos were done with the 7D. Okay. Oh, I just learned Loni is my colleague actually at Genetech. Sorry. Hi, Milan. I did not know you go by Loni.
Hi, thank you. Great talk.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, and thank you all for all the really beautiful comments. Thank you so much actually for all taking your time too. But I do have a few other questions that are coming by. So let's see.
Just say we're leaving. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you very much, Sri. We're leaving. We really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you, Sharon. See you
We
soon.
miss you. See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. So there was a question about what percentage of your time was spent in the blinds. I would say 50-50. 50-50. Because what happened is, sitting in the blinds does get tiring after some point. And like I said, in one particular day, he had prepared me very well, basically saying, look, today you cannot get out of the blind because these birds are very skittish. And if you want to shoot these, and especially the pitas and things like that, you have to stay in the blind. And we spent close to 8 hours. We would message each other saying, I need to take a bathroom break or things like that. But unfortunately, that day we saw nothing, no pitas at all. But that's what you do. I mean, this is nature. Nothing I could do. Then let's see. Oops, did I lose you guys? Okay. How light did you pack and travel? So for camera gear, pretty much what I told you. I had a 70 Mark II, I had a 70 Mark I, another small camera with me, and then the iPhone and the tripod. But I'm glad I took that. It was not lightweight. I had the 500mm prime, and so it is actually heavy. But thankfully, I could put them into one bag. I'm happy to share the bag information with anybody who wants to travel with these. This is very interesting airline time at that point. If you can put your backpack without showing you kind of carrying weight, they don't check you. But the moment they realize it's heavy, they don't allow you to carry it on. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. And I did not want to take my. I really didn't want to take put my camera stuff in the packed baggage. So I had to take everything with me. And one camera lens, the smaller camera lens, actually I gave it to my wife to carry with her. So one question is, thank you, it's a lovely couch travel to Thailand. Have you published a book? No, I have not. I think some of the photographs are not that quality for my own taste. But just because I'm also learning about birds at the same time, I don't mind showing it to friends. But probably not going to publish in the form of a book yet. Yeah, and so other question is, did you use a 1.4x teleconverter with the 500 at all? Not in this case. I did not use it because I also had a 150-600mm with me on a crop sensor. I was hoping it would be enough. But at one point, I did see the guide actually was using a Nikon with a 600mm lens, and he was also shooting with a 1.4x converter. But he probably had a full frame sensor, so he needed the 1.4x on it. Okay, I think that were most of the questions I saw. I hope the presentation and Zoom actually worked out for everyone. I'm really hoping that this could be an avenue for us to share slides and things like that in the future. If this stay at home continues, don't really want to waste anybody's time, but this way at least we can share photos and see some presentations.
Thank you very much, Sri.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Bye.
Thank you,
Good
Steve.
night.
Thank
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Steve, also.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks a lot for your help. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.